Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States. Republic.
Good evening, everyone. Glad you are here. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. All right. May I please have a motion to approve the Board of Education meeting minutes for August 2nd, 2018?
Move. Second.
All who approve?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? One abstention. Thank you. Bear with me. This is my first time doing this.
Fine.
Okay. We have no patron comments tonight. And is this where we do the board?
Yes.
Superintendent comments? Do you have any comments for us tonight?
I do, quite a
Okay,
few.
Go for it.
You have to ask that question? You know, I want to make a comment really quick before I talk about my prepared comments, just because I think it's appropriate to do this. And it's going to surprise him. But Tony Kraus, who is with us all the time, works for the Leader newspaper and does a great job covering our things in the Rockwood School District. But Tony, 6 weeks ago, had twins. I started to say two twins. I guess that's kind of redundant. Had twins, and they're healthy, and he's smiling, and all is well. So congratulations, Tony.
You do look a little tired, though.
I asked him, I said, "Are you sleeping?" He said, "No." All right. Well, the big news of the day is that school has started. And 3 down, 177 to go. Is my math right there? Did I do that right? I think so. We've had I feel like every year, this is my 31st year to start school as a professional. If I add in all my other years in college and student, it's been all my life for the most part. But I feel like they just get more and more smooth as we go. And I said to somebody the other day, coming back to school after summer now, to me, feels like what it used to feel like coming back to school after like spring break. You know, it's like the students are here for, a half a day. They get to lunch, and it's like they're back in the swing. And it just doesn't feel like the angst. I think that's because we do a lot with orientations. We have contact with students through social media. And I think it says a lot for our efforts to prepare and just the quality of our students. But it's in reality, it's just been a great start. I mean, there's always hiccups. There's always kinks we have to iron out. We've had some adjustments to our transportation this year, which we knew was coming. We communicated that last year. That was all in response to the community's interest in having later start times. We did a lot of surveying last year, and we knew that was coming. And we're trying to settle in, and Paul's just doing a phenomenal job overseeing transportation, working with Mike Heyman and working with parents. And when we see anything that's even remotely a safety concern, Paul has addressed it. So we're good with that. And, when things are different, parents have questions. So we're dealing with those normal things. But it's not anything out of the ordinary. School is good. The morale in our staff is phenomenal, and you can just feel it when you're in a building. And we felt that when we had them together collectively. I'm going to talk a little more about that in a minute. So it's just been a great start, and I think we've got a video to share, correct? Yes.
Here we are on top of the stars. Never thought we'd ever get this far. We live for moments like this. We come alive in moments like this. Here we are, this is a time like a dream coming to life. We live for moments like this. We come alive in moments like this. racing through my head. I try to capture it, but a picture can't hold what a heart is feeling. I just wanna stop the world from spinning, slow it all down for a minute, so that I can take it in. I can take it in. Here we are, on top of the stars. Never thought we'd ever get this far. We live for moments like this. We come alive in moments like this. Here we are, this is a time, like a dream coming to life. We live for moments like this. We come alive in moments like this. Moments like this. I don't wanna close my eyes. I'm feeling so alive. I try to find the words, but no words can say what my heart is feeling. I just wanna stop the world from spinning, slow it all down for a minute, so that I can take it in. I can take it in. Here we are, on top of the stars.
Stuff. If you, be a cheap plug here for people to follow me on social media if you don't, but one of my favorite pictures, if you look at my Twitter feed, was of some students, and a little young man was eating a sandwich. And he wanted to be in the picture, but he would not put that sandwich down. So he's in the picture eating his sandwich, and you can see a smile behind the sandwich. So he was being funny a little bit, but it's like, it's that kind of stuff that just really, really makes it a lot more fun. Okay, a few other things. To get ready for our first day of school, our Rockwood educators participated in our annual teacher orientation, 4-day event that included school meetings, teacher work time, and district-wide curriculum and instruction sessions. One of the learning experiences included dyslexia simulation. And Shelley shared with us that the simulation was designed to increase awareness of dyslexia. We know legislation was passed recently requiring school districts to do dyslexia training for all teachers. And with that, the way the state has handled that is they created a 2-hour sit in front of a computer PowerPoint-like presentation, but you don't have to use that. And I really want to applaud Stephanie Steffen and, under Shelley's leadership, plan some hands-on training that we just keep hearing how much people appreciated that ability to be together and to go through that and have some experiences with what it's like to have dyslexia. And we kind of rolled that into realizing that all of our students have a story, and that's why we need to be a champion for all. So it was very, very good leading up to the day, to the first day of school. And also in anticipation of the school year, Eureka High School class of 2022 turned out for their new student orientation and their annual freshman gauntlet on August 9. After being greeted outside by upperclassmen with high fives and hugs, the students made their way through a friendly gauntlet of teachers and administrators who greeted them, applauded them, and told the ninth graders they are glad that they are here with us. And 5 on Your Side, Channel 5 did a story in the event. And Mr. Crowther told us that Eureka High has 450 incoming freshmen this year, and his intent was to relieve their anxiety and make them feel welcome, and I think it did that. Wanted to point out that a website that helps families discover schools and neighborhoods recently revealed its top public high schools, and happy to say that all 4 of Rockwood's high schools were really within the top 15, and Lafayette High School is ranked number 2 on that's on niche.com. So congratulations to our schools, and that speaks volumes. And there's a lot of rankings out there, and we want to be careful with them because one can discredit the other one, but niche is actually a pretty respected ranking. They go out of the way to really consider the metrics that create those rankings, and it's impressive. So we're proud to have all of our high schools on that list.
And Dr. Knost, I think that's the end. The rest of the comments just introduces the video, which you already played.
Oh, we have another video.
No.
No.
The one that's at the end you already introduced.
So I really messed that up, didn't I?
You ad-libbed it.
You see, when you say, feel free to ad lib, that's what I do. Yeah. All right, so that's it. That's all I have.
All right. How about someone on the board? Any sharing?
It was exciting to be in. I think I was in 12 of the schools on the first day. I agree with Dr. Canosa. It was very exciting. There was a strong, positive morale, lots of smiles on kids, very few kindergarten tears. So that was a really good point. But the staff there, was about business as usual. They were into school, doing what they love to do, and felt really good about the start of the school year. And I think, again, it's because of the preparation that goes into the school year.
I wanted to say thank you to all our building administrators for taking time. I know that they got a lot going on, and they took the time with me. I'm sure they did with you guys to walk us around and welcome us into their schools, so thank you for that. And then I also want to thank, I don't know who did this, but the parties who put the forms online to fill out as parents. I love it that we embrace technology and keep moving forward with that. Our parents appreciate it. We're all busy, and it really helps us out a lot, so thank you.
No, I feel bad because Tammy went to 12. I only went to 9. And because we talked the night before, and it's always great to be out there in the buildings and seeing the kids and the staff. But what I remember, one thing specifically I remember is I was walking to my car at Ellisville, and it's quite a walk to the parking lot because I went around, and there was a staff member. She was waving goodbye to the parents, and I thought that was just so cool to see someone out there say, bye, we have your kids, we're fine. And I waved to her, she waved to me, and it was just heartwarming to see the enthusiasm. And although I went into my granddaughter's classroom, and she's in 2nd grade, and she completely ignored me. It was, Nana, it's time for you to go now. I'm sure that's what she was thinking. But great job preparing the staff, and the concept of being a champion for all kids was evidence in all the schools I went into, and the administrators were embracing it. So it's nice to have a consistent message. All right? Anything else? If not, I will call for a motion to approve the consent agenda items as submitted.
Moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion,
I do have one to talk about, if that's okay.
sure.
That's number, I don't know what it is, I can't read it.
1.11.
This is right there. We have 2 donations to start off the school year. First one is from Gerald and probably Alex Obermeyer, modification of facilities, $1,250 to promote learning outdoor for students somewhere different than a classroom. It's an Eagle Scout service project to build an outdoor classroom for the teachers to use for promoting teaching and learning outdoors for the students at Kerrs Mill Elementary. And then Lafayette High School, Lancer Parent Organization, $14,204 to purchase items to support students in their classrooms. A total of 9 grants have been given to 9 teachers in 9 different departments to purchase items for our students, including supplies to support our BAM program, workshop tuitions for media students, 3D printer, and virtual reality devices. That's a nice start for the new school year.
That motion carried, right? Okay. Now it is time for our project interface, Highlight Summer Learning with Kim Lutzow, Holly Tinker, Gail Sabin, and we also have some students here.
Dr. Canosa, the board, thank you for allowing us to come. Invited us on behalf of the COPE committee to just give you an overview of what we had students doing this summer. So, click to the next slide. Just a little background about Project Interface. It started, and you can go ahead and click, Brett.
Clickers in front of you there.
Oh, well, there where we can do it. Okay, where Bretta can do it. You guys take over that. The project interface began in 1993 in a language arts classroom at Lafayette High School. In 1997, it came to the Partners in Education. Language arts teacher. We point in time. Staff. The biggest part of project interface is that it's self-directed. So there isn't a teacher and a classroom teacher with them, nor a PI person with them during their entire internship. It's a student or a group of students with a business partner. They usually complete a project assigned by the business partner, and Logan has one of those to share with you specifically. Our goal is that students apply the skills taught by classroom teachers into a real-world setting, and that comes through in every single project. They do earn a half a CTE credit if they work the minimum of 75 hours, and most of our students put in many more than that. I think the most we had this summer was the student put in 180 hours. It's a non-weighted grade, so they're doing this for true learning. They're not doing it to bump up their GPA, because many times it actually lowers their GPA. I would be remiss if I didn't tell all of you that there are two business partners here in the room with us. One is the communications department. They had a student this summer, and also Rockwood IT, Bretta and Deb Kettering had a student with them this summer, and both those students did fabulous work. So we click one more. This is an example of all the different career areas where we place students this summer. So I'm not going to read those to you guys. You will see that they are heavily STEM focused. So I think there's 27 listed there. Of those, there were 6 or 7 that are non-STEM. So our push to get students into STEM fields and STEM careers and take STEM classes is definitely working. We're seeing those students come into Project Interface and then go into college in those careers. So at this point, you guys don't really want to hear from me anymore, and I can appreciate that. So I'm going to turn over the presentation to these two young people. They're going to introduce themselves. They're going to tell you what they did this summer, and then they're going to answer whatever questions that you have. Before I turn it over, I do want to really mention Mrs. Gayla Sabin is in the back. She worked directly with about 40 students this summer. Logan was one of them. She went out and found that business partner, set up meetings with the students, and then coached the students through their practices and their final presentation. So I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize her hard work. Logan, I'm going to turn over to you.
All right. My name is Logan Kaiser. I'm a senior at Eureka High School, and this summer I participated in the Project Interface program, and I was placed in a mechanical engineering internship at a company called Craftsman Industries. And what Craftsman Industries does is they make custom marketing trailers that, or also work heavily in graphics to put graphics on trailers and trucks and make custom trailers for a wide variety of companies that are looking to find a more mobile, kind of new way to market other than just like TV ads or something like that. And so basically what my summer kind of took place in at the company was our project was to complete a study comparing a three 15,000-pound axle configuration on a trailer to like a traditional 20,000-pound axle configuration. And so our whole project was to really in-depth compare all the pros and cons, all the factors of each configuration, and it was really intended for new employees of the company that were going to not necessarily be super familiar with the trailer industry and just kind of wanted a quick note, something they could read in 15 minutes or whatever, to just kind of get some quick background information on the pros and cons of each, in case they would be making a decision in the future where they would have to choose between one or the other, because that is something that was certainly a valuable skill at the company. So I thought it was just really cool to get like this kind of experience that really went far beyond the classroom and actually got a super in-depth look at what it's actually like to be an engineer and to actually complete a project like this that was going to have a meaningful effect on a company and that was actually creating a tangible product that was going to be used by people in the future was really cool for me. So this is a copy just right here of the project that we completed. So it was 15 pages in the end, so it was, somewhat intensive of a project. It was about 100 hours for my internship, but it was a lot of fun, and I learned a ton about, what it's like to be an engineer. I learned a lot about myself, even about, what areas maybe I need to improve in, what I'm kind of good at already when it comes to a professional, aspect of my life. So I just had a lot of fun, and I'm super thankful for the opportunity.
My name is Shira Kabuba, and I am a senior at Marquette High School. This summer, I also participated in the Project Interface program, and I was assigned to the company Less Annoying CRM to do diversity inclusion. I was first placed into the Project Interface program to do law, but they found like a different little area for me in order to broaden my horizons, and that's how I got paired with Less Annoying CRM. And Less Annoying CRM is a company that deals with customer relationship management software, and they mainly target smaller businesses, and their motto is to help small businesses succeed. The reason why they decided to target small businesses was mainly just because a lot of bigger companies, they weren't necessarily focusing on smaller companies as well. It was all of the products that were being pushed out were mainly just for bigger companies, for example, like AT&T as well, but not necessarily a lot of startups, just like Less Annoying, which is also a startup. So they wanted to figure out how they could at least branch out into this different area that not a lot of people were going into. As I mentioned before, I was first interested in law, so I was thinking, because when I first walked in for my meeting or my interview, I told them that I really liked to help a lot of people. That was mainly my passion, whether it was through volunteer work or mainly just doing something, randomly during the day. I just really like that feeling of satisfaction, just helping other people. And Less Annoying CRM, while they do technically work with software, this was like a different light because I never necessarily realized that I could also help other people through like a small company, like just helping the company expand their horizons and appeal to different people within the community, especially because they are based in St. Louis as of right now after they moved from San Francisco. And the CEO, Tyler, he had told me that he wanted to figure out how he could appeal to people from lower socioeconomic groups and culturally diverse people, as well as like a high school audience. So I think mainly my time there really helped me broaden my horizons. It helped me realize that I don't necessarily have to go into law to help people. I don't have to change any policy if I can start somewhere small and maybe grow out even a little later. But yeah, that was just my time with the company.
Where are you guys located? Where were the company?
So Craftsman Industries is located in St. Charles. It was about 40-minute drive from where we are right now. So it wasn't terrible, but it was a little far. But it was cool. Worth it for sure.
I was based in downtown St. Louis, and mine was about a 30-minute drive. But I mean, I also had to beat rush hour traffic, so that was something new.
Sharu, I missed. What does CRM stand for?
Customer relationship management.
Oh,
Yes.
I think you said that. I just missed it.
No, it's all right.
What you,
Neat name for them as well, because CRM programs are annoying.
Yes, they really try to strive away
That's
from
a good name for a company.
Logan, you worked with, was it axles or
Yeah, trailer axles. So just
did you find out one was better than the other, or did you find out that one serves a different purpose, or how that
yeah.
work?
So that's really what our conclusion was that they just serve different purposes. So our goal wasn't necessarily to favor one over the other in the end. It was really just to provide information for someone to make an informed decision later on when they have specifications for a project that might be, completely unique to whatever they're trying to accomplish.
Did you get a chance to go out to buyers out here and look at what kind of axles they have, or anything like that, or?
No, but there's a huge shop as a part of Craftsman. So on the first day when we got there and did a tour of the facility, we on several different projects that they were working on, we got to go under the trailer and look at everything that was kind of going on there. And so our mentor, who was the vice president of engineering for the company, he was super helpful in the beginning to help us, kind of familiarize ourselves with the industry, because obviously we didn't have a ton of knowledge going in, but we took a long time to make sure in the beginning that we toured the shop and everything that was going on. Every day that we were there, we went back out to the shop to just kind of see what was going on there. And then, yeah, so looking hands-on with axles was a part of that.
Did you get to do any welding? Because that's the next phase, or did you just do the other part? Oh,
Yeah.
Tim says no welding. Okay.
Unfortunately, there wasn't any hands-on things like that. It would have been cool too, but that was not a part of our project.
Sharu, have you decided not to go into law? Or are you still thinking about that?
I'm currently still considering going into law. I think before the meeting I was talking with Mrs. Romberg, and I told her that I was also interested in doing foreign relations and tying it into my experience at Lessinoing, maybe just starting small and then branching out later on.
Like you both had a very positive experience, or you probably wouldn't be here tonight. Any suggestions? How do we reach out to more high school juniors? How do we get more people interested?
I guess I'll start. So if I would have any ideas, perhaps the main way that I was familiarized with it and the way that I came to learn that it existed was the fact that my older sister actually also participated in the program. So if there were, just some sort of, posters throughout the school or something like that to kind of just get people's attention and to make people aware of it. Because I think there were certainly people that, had they been aware of the opportunity, would have taken it and would have enjoyed it and learned from it. But, there wasn't there were, maybe some places that we could, pick up on and make sure to get people just aware of it.
My situation is also similar to Logan's because my cousin had also participated in the program, so that's how I figured it out. During my presentation, I actually talked about this, but it was mainly for diversity, but I think also maybe just targeting a bit of like the after-school clubs, because I feel like especially if maybe you have a business partner that Rockwood has worked with in the past, if they go in and they advertise, hey, this is what you can do if you really want an internship here, if you want to learn a little bit more about the company and what we do, you can also do this through your project interface program. We've worked through with them before. I think just starting somewhere small, or especially where a lot of the students are going to be interested in that one field, it'll probably also introduce them to the project interface program as well.
I just wanted to ask you a really quick question. It's a yes or no. You don't have to explain. If this were an opportunity, if you had the opportunity, and I don't want you to think through, I wouldn't be able to take this, wouldn't be able to take that. But if this were an experience during the school day where you had release time, where that was part of your schooling, do you think that would get to what you were just talking about as far as more people being interested in thinking about the concept of it? It's your passion. It's something that you want to do. You want to learn more about, and so it becomes part of your education, and you have release time to do that.
Yeah, I would say that's probably.
As well.
Well, that's the goal. So,
So I was going to comment that in 2001, my younger daughter participated in Project Interface. It was probably in its first couple of years at that point in time. And she had an internship with the Jones Company, and fast forward, she is now an architect. So that really set her career path for college and beyond. So it's just an amazing program, and I look forward to seeing it grow as it has grown since those days. And I think Eric is on the right track as trying to incorporate it into the school day, so it's just not a summer opportunity. You guys are amazing.
Well, thank you. We have always had the board support and, of course, Dr. Kano's support, and the goal is to broaden the scope, and that's our goal every single year. We have extraordinary students and we have extraordinary business partners. 90% of our kids participate during the summer. Very few participate during the school year because of the reason you just said. Now they've got to hedge their schedule and what can I make work, but we still make it work for those students. Both of these students stood up at the end of their presentation and said, now I know a better path or where I'm going. Some students stand up and say, now I know for sure this is not what I want to do. That's just as powerful. We know that then they're going to go in a different direction. So whether they decide to go into it or to decide to take another path, both of those are powerful for high school students. So we appreciate your continued support. All the kids were fabulous this summer. We had a great group and a great group of business partners that we couldn't do it without them. So again, thanks for your support, and especially for the support of the IT department and the communications department this summer. Thank you.
Kim, you mentioned something in your presentation that this is non-weighted course, and we probably lose some students. I don't know if you said that or not, but I'd assume. Have you given thoughts, or have you already evaluated whether it could be a weighted course?
We haven't made it happen, probably for two reasons. We want students to be, and so not because they had to get the Dr. Willett and I have the conversation. And you're going to
How many participated this summer? I missed that. 75. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Thanks for
guys.
being here.
Having us.
May I please have a motion to approve the superintendent designee to continue to manage the FY19 P card program as presented.
Second.
Discussion? Brenda Kirchhofer.
Actually, Kirchhofer.
Cocker.
I've been calling her Kirchhofer
sound.
from the day I walked in, and only recently
You're
did
not the only
I
one.
heard you say it,
Uh-huh.
and I thought, oh.
You are the, Brenda is the coordinator of purchasing, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you. So unfortunately, my presentation is probably not going to be as exciting as Project Interface. It's a tough act to follow, but I'll do my best to keep you engaged. So get started here. So the P-Card program continues to be an important part of the overall spending for the district. P-Card purchases are primarily made of small dollar convenience type purchases. This time last year, we had just transitioned to Bank of America from the UMB program. It was a fairly smooth transition, and I think overall, most users are very happy with the program. It gives the users the advantage of a Works program, a single stream, a place where they can go and view their transactions as well as reconcile all of their transactions as well. Additionally, the Works program offers an additional layer of reporting that we haven't had in the past, and I'll talk a little bit about that in my next slide. So each card is set up with a card strategy or a card profile. Based on the department and the user, they have an established spend limit as well as a monthly credit limit. I know per the audit that we had back in 2013, the auditors recommend that we keep a tighter control on changes that are made with the P cards. And the Works program really gives us many tools to do that. Emails are sent directly to all the administrators on the account anytime any change is made in any person's limit. If we have to increase it for whatever reason, then we have a record of all of that. It also allows for restricted usage based on a company's MCC code, which is a merchant category code. And an example of that would be like a bar or cash or a spa or something that we definitely wouldn't want our employees to use. As of August 1st, we have 235 P cards. 97 of those are department cards and 138 employee cards. The department cards were put into place to basically minimize the number of cards but maximize the usage in the buildings. So we have one administrator in the school that is responsible for managing that card. The cards are checked out by different users. And so we have, it really depends on the number of cards per building as to how many business cards they have or department cards. And the manager is basically responsible for any transaction that's on that card as well as the reconciliation at the end of the month. Okay, so last year, our spend was up a little bit with P-card purchases. We were just shy of 5.3 million. The P-card rebates were earned. It was almost 47,000, and that's really only 7 months of the year. I did an actual versus a projection. So last year, I know our previous rebate with Bank of America was, I think, $46,500. So that will likely go up for the entire year. If we're comparing apples to apples, it will likely be between 65 and 75,000. Questions?
Brenda, a couple things.
Sure.
The total number of cards is 235.
Yes.
Matt's going to have to help me on this, but when the auditor came around, we had over 600. Is that right?
Yes, we did.
Yes.
And we worked
We've
constantly to get
narrowed.
down. Is this
Absolutely.
less cards this year than last year?
The
or
same.
The same.
Yes.
And the other one I forgot. I'll come back later.
Okay.
So are you thinking that you would like to get that number down even more, or?
Well, I think we're at a point where we're in a good place. I mean, we'll certainly look into that if there's a situation where cards aren't being used, but we're certainly not adding any at this point. But if we have an opportunity to, to reduce cards, we'll certainly take advantage of that.
Well, I'm a teacher. I go to the administrator and ask to use the department's card,
Correct.
and then I make my purchase, turn it in.
Mm.
Is there an approval process in there somewhere as far as someone knowing what I'm
Absolutely.
prior to that?
Yes. So, so the P-card administrator has a checkout log, and it includes what you want to buy, how much you plan on spending, where you're going to spend it, what budget code, most importantly, what budget code is it coming out of. So you have to log all of that prior to checking out the card. So the approval process takes place before the P-card is actually used.
Then who says, okay, you can go and do that?
The P-card administrator
Okay.
or the budget secretaries
Okay, yeah.
in most buildings. Yes.
Somebody's taking a look at that before they actually go out and make the purchase.
Absolutely. Yes.
How many transactions did we have last year?
I thought you might ask that. It is.
Well, you told me to ask it, so I'm asking it.
I told you to ask. 32,900
Okay.
900 transactions.
Did we get a rebate the year before? with the
Yes,
previous-
last year was 46,500 for
That
the
was
entire
another
year.
company. That was another company, though, right?
Correct. Yeah, so we started with Bank of America on August 1st. There was some carryover because we were still with UMB for part of the month, and so that's why. And UMB pays their rebates, I think their calendar year, so January through December, but Bank of America pays them from, I think it's, I have to go back to my notes. We received the check in March, so it's August to, yeah, so they pay in March, so it would be,
Through
yeah, for the
February.
full year, yeah.
Okay.
I have one more question. I promise this is my last one.
No, it's okay.
So who oversees the card manager?
Well, we have a P-card manager in my department, and that's a big part of her
So-
job.
Okay.
So-
At the school level, so the person who does the approval process says, okay, you can go out and do this.
Right.
Who makes sure that that person is making the correct approvals?
Okay, so the building card manager, signs out the log, then she reconciles the statement, and then that statement is typically signed off by a building principal, and then it comes to the finance department, and it's checked
Principal's
again.
taking a look at what's being spent.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Mhm.
Really
Usually-
similar to any purchasing in the building.
Right.
It's always going to be on the principal's shoulders to,
Right.
to make sure that that's, the right things are being approved and it's not just careless spending.
Usually the principal secretary? Is that who it is?
Actually, in most cases.
Our administrators, by and large, don't carry P cards, which is not common in most districts. I don't have a Rockwood School District credit card. My staff doesn't have that, and for the most part, our building principals don't, because we don't think that's necessary. We think that there's a more efficient way to do it, and that has a lot to do with when we went from that over 600 and really got it down. I think Brenda's right. It's kind of a sweet spot for the size of our district.
I would agree.
And there is a financial benefit to it. I mean, it's not only that it's efficiency, but there is a financial benefit to it.
Doesn't just include the schools. This includes central office, maintenance, food services, all those, right?
Adventure Club.
Thanks.
Yeah, the entire district. Thank you.
Thank you. So I believe it's time. I'll repeat the motion to approve motion to approve superintendent designee to continue to manage the FY19 P-card program as presented.
Move.
We
No,
already
all-
motioned.
We
All in
already did that?
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
How'd you say Brenda's last name?
Offer.
Kirchhofer.
Kirk.
Kirk.
No ch.
There's no K in there. Gotcha. Oh, there is one. Kirch.
So now, Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Lisa Counts, will present an informational update on the high school program design review. Thank you, Lisa.
Hey, good evening. Okay, I don't know who scheduled the project interface people, but that was really amazing because they just laid the foundation for lots of things I'm going to talk about. So I'm even more excited than I already was to make this presentation. So,
It was me.
well, yeah, exactly. I know Dr. Canos planned that. Absolutely. Why
Not
did I
at
even
all.
question? Okay, so thank you for letting me present this evening. As I said, I'm very excited about this topic, so I will try not to be long-winded, as I know we've got a lot of business to do tonight. But as you remember, our high school program design group is a large committee that started winter, springish of 2016. So I say that just to say that a lot of work has happened. We've been working that whole time, and it's been really valuable work. So tonight I just want to give you a quick review of where we started, what we've been looking at, and where we're headed next steps. So we started with defining our pillars. Basically, those are those things that are going to be the foundation for all of our decision making. This will be the center of our recommendations, the core of the decisions that we make. That everything we're going to look at is going to come back to these 4 pillars. Then we went on to set our priorities, because when we started, we really said we could look at anything that has to do with high school programming. What are the things that we really want to study to continue to grow and improve our high school program? And so these 4 areas really rose to the top. And as we defined those priorities, scheduling became that piece that touched everything. And every subcommittee, scheduling kept coming to the top, and we need to look at the schedule, or we need to fix the schedule, we need to add this in the schedule. So it just kept kind of coming up in this interconnectedness with our 4 areas of focus. So with that, then, we put a group of people on the charge of, okay, well, let's study our high school schedule. Does it need some improvements? And so before we put a team together to do that, we said, well, if we're going to study our high school schedule, what are the things that we have that work, and what are the things that we really want to look at to improve upon? And those things that you see at the top there really rose to the top, especially that advisory or flex time. And advisory is not a new concept. You all have heard that before, kind of that homeroom concept. Some districts have an academic connect. Some places call it flex time and some other things. But that kept coming up with our committee at large, that we really need some time for our students to be able to dig deeper with our curriculum, to explore other things. And there's a whole variety of things that we know that time can be used for, and I'll talk about that some more. So those were kind of the things that we put as the charge for our scheduling subcommittee. Look at these things and see how we can make these fit in our Rockwood schedules. So then as we started to study master schedules, we started going out and exploring and looking at schedules, and we started to realize that it's not just about the master schedule, that you can find benefits in almost any master schedule you look at. But really what we started to quickly learn is that we needed a master schedule that really looked at the experiences that we could provide students. And that if we really looked at our instructional practices and the quality of things that we're providing for our students, we could build any master schedule around that. So we really decided it was more about the experiences and what we as the educators were providing and supporting students with versus just a traditional, whether it was a 7-period day or a block period day. I mean, there's a million varieties, but we really wanted to start looking at those experiences that we give kids. So then we turned to our curriculum and assessment team, and we said, okay, what are the things that we're working on there? What practices are areas of focus for our curriculum team? And as you can see, there's a long list of those, and some of those you've heard. lots of those you've heard, and some of those even tonight. And these are the areas of focus that Shelley and her team are working on through professional learning, through curriculum writing. And so we decided, as we looked at that, we realized, wait a minute, those are the best practices that really will provide the experiences that we're looking for. You heard our two amazing students. Every year when they come to talk, I just think that's it right there. That's what we're trying to do, is have kids walk away going, okay, now I have a better understanding of how I'm going to contribute when I leave high school. Now I know this is my path, or maybe this isn't my path. And so we realized that that's what we want for all of our students, not just a few that can do it over the summer or a few that it might work for during the school year, but how can we really take these types of experiences and build a schedule that lets kids do that. So that's really what then led our focus. It went away more from, should we have a 7-period day, or how many minutes should be in each class, to how do we get these things in our schedules so that all students can experience those things to make them better prepared. So an activity that we have done a few times with a couple of different groups is just taking a moment to look at time, because we all hear about time as a barrier, or if we had more time, or we need time here. And we started realizing that time can really be leveraged in a lot of different ways, and it doesn't have to be a barrier. And so instead of saying we have to have certain blocks of time, really challenging ourselves to look at what could we do with various increments of time to give us more flexibility. So it was just a good way to start helping staff and our other constituents realize that time doesn't have to be a barrier, and we don't have to fall into rigid time frames to accomplish those pillars that we said that we were setting out to do. I just like this slide just as a reminder. It's been a good reminder to us. We put this slide up a lot as we've been working through our many, many meetings, is that really the guiding force to starting change in this process is our pillars, our goals, not the time. And so the schedule can certainly help us with that change, but the schedule shouldn't be the driving force to get where we want to go. That those pillars and those goals for our students should be what we should keep our eyes on, not just the master schedule. So then we really started focusing on flex time. So if flex time was going to be that priority for our master schedule, we wanted to get a pretty clear, at least, set of criteria or opportunities that we wanted flex time to provide for our students. And basically what we came down to is this would be an opportunity for students to do a lot of different things in our school, not just necessarily academic either. Even some of the things that we heard from those students tonight, that they could really engage with a corporation. They could really engage with. I loved listening to Charu talk about how she realized that she didn't necessarily have to have a law degree, that she might be able to do some other things. She might land on a law degree, she might not. But I mean, look at how her perspective has really been broadened through that experience. And so we feel like with flex time, some time that's not necessarily a credit-bearing, weight-bearing activity for kids will give them some opportunities to kind of, like when we look at middle school and we have those Explo courses, right? That's what that's for, is determine what you like, determine what you're good at, what you want to know more about. And we want to build some of that back into our high school. So that's the premise around flex time, is that it certainly can be focused on academic needs, but it could be focused on some other things too, providing kids job readiness skills, providing kids opportunities to connect on a deeper level with their teachers or with their classmates. And so it's really an opportunity to give kids a time to connect with their school community on a different level than a traditional 45-minute class period focused solely on curriculum and content. So then we started the actual work of, okay, we really need to research what would a master schedule look like that would meet all those requirements, give us all those opportunities, and of course meet those pillars that we set out at the very beginning, which is a pretty tall order. But fortunately, we have amazing people on this committee, super hardworking, dedicated people to this. So we did our review. We studied a lot of schedules. We visited several schools here around the St. Louis area and went and saw some of our neighbors and some things they were doing. We looked at specifically schools in St. Louis and across the country. We did some Skype sessions with schools from different states and cities that had philosophies similar to ours. And we looked at how they were using time and how they were using their master schedule to meet their needs that were very similar to ours. So after we did that, we put some sample schedules out to our high school staff to get their feedback, and then we just started narrowing the options. And what we came up with, which is still in a very rough draft format, what the feedback told us is that there's some need for various blocks of time. And so we need some ability to have some shorter class periods, maybe what you would consider a 7-period day, so your class periods are a little bit shorter, but maybe a large block of time for that flex time in that 7-period day. And then maybe some opportunities for your traditional 4-block kind of system where you have longer class periods for some deeper learning, labs, presentations, collaboration time, things like that. So regardless, we know that we want a schedule that allows for a variety of types of class periods and then builds in that flex time. So next steps, where are we? So our goal, I'll start maybe at the bottom and work backward. Our goal is really to have a finalized schedule to roll out for the 2019-20 school year. And so what we want to do this year is we want to take our professional development time, which we're so excited this year. We've added 4 early dismissal days for our high school staff, which in the past they really never had any structured professional learning time. They have their PLC time, but you know, there's other tasks that are happening there, and it's not a real long block of time. So now we have 4 early dismissals that our high school staff will be able to really focus on some of these things we've listed here. And top of the list is really those instructional strategies. And you all know we have fantastic teachers in our district, so this isn't about teaching them how to be teachers, but it's really providing them some strategies and just maybe further dialogue with each other on how we can take our current practices and make them more relevant for students, more engaging, give our students more choice and voice so they can really explore and interact with our curriculum versus us delivering a curriculum to them. So that will be a big part of that professional learning. The other thing we want to just kind of do a refresher on what does it mean to teach in the block. And we have a lot of teachers who are currently teaching in the block and do a fantastic job. So we just want to revisit some of those practices and also revisit how we can use that time to really go deeper with our curriculum. Instead of rushing through a bunch of activities just because you have 90 minutes, what could that 90 minutes really do for a student? And even some of those ideas that we've heard from our students that participate in some context outside the school day, we could probably use some of that time for that as well. We also want to look at just paring down our curriculum a little bit, and this is the work that Shelley's department is doing and doing a really great job of really defining those essential skills so that kids can engage deeply with the curriculum instead of hitting 100 curriculum standards on a surface level. Maybe we pick 10 that are really paramount. And it also will give us an opportunity then to do some more of that embedded learning that kids can really see the connectedness between math and science and social studies and art and band, and they can really start to see how all their learning is relevant and just not in silos. And then we want to take opportunity just to revisit those soft skills. We hear a lot about that, again, through our project interface kids, through kids that are going out and interacting with our community in different ways, that all of those abilities for kids to set goals for themselves, to prioritize, to be able to handle some challenges. I love when Kim mentions just the simple thing, which sounds simple, but to a teenager I know is not always getting yourself to work on time every day and completing paperwork and making sure you CC people on emails and just things that, kids need practice with. And so we want to provide that during that flex time. We also know that during flex time, it's a little bit scary to us as educators because we're kind of used to controlling the time, right? And for 45 minutes, you're going to do this and then this. But if we allow kids flex time, we have to be able to prepare them to be more responsible and to have some more freedom. And what does that look like and how do they get the most out of that time? So our goal will be to have a schedule ready to roll out next school year. As far as what does the schedule look like, the ABC, how many 7-period days would we have, how many block days would we have? that's kind of still to be determined. That will be part of that professional learning work that we do this fall. And then I just want to end with this question that I think really we've kind of come full circle, that we started thinking, okay, if we fix the schedule, it's going to fix everything else. And then we realized, wait a minute, if we really look at what our students need and what type of learners they are and program for that, we can build any kind of schedule around that. And so the committee has been amazing that it was like this journey that they realized that, oh, we're going to fix this schedule. This is all about the schedule. And then it's kind of evolved into, you know what, we can land on any kind of schedule as long as we're making sure we're meeting kids' needs and really honoring how each student is going to have a different path. And if we build that flex time in there, then we'll be able to honor that more so than we think we're doing right now. That's it. Questions?
Well, comments?
Okay.
One, thank you for taking this on, and you make so many poignant points about meeting the needs of students. One thing I want to mention is you talked about the learning expectations versus activities. And I know when you're talking about extended periods of time, that professional development is going to be huge for our teachers. While we've got great teachers, it is a different way of teaching. And if you're going to match the minutes to the mission, everybody has to be on the same page with that. So I know you'll keep that in mind as you go through your professional development, getting everybody on board. In any way will this affect their credits and units? They'll be able to, all students would still be able to meet all the required credits.
Great question, and I didn't build that into this presentation. Obviously, there's so many more layers to this, but trying to be concise and also just giving you the broad overview. When we have a final schedule, we'll get into that. But yes, the answer is yes. And then we also are working, again, with Shelley's department on looking at competency-based requirements, and we're really interested in that because we're going to have our kids meet the credits. We're always going to, meet the state requirement, but sometimes that's limiting. The example of sometimes kids don't engage with project interface or other things that we offer because they're looking to have a very rigorous course schedule, and so sometimes that limits students. So a competency-based program would allow kids really to access more and in different venues. If they've shown competency in an area, they might not have to sit through 2 years of whatever. They might be able to show their mastery and move on to something else, which then could open up some doors. So we're pursuing that, we meaning Shelley's department, along with our high school program design group.
What about flex time? How much time are you talking about with students?
Yeah, so that's still to be determined.
Okay.
That certainly is a hot topic of discussion, right?
Okay.
So first we had to really define what is it for, because certainly we didn't want to create time that was not worthwhile for kids or teachers. So we spent a lot of time with teachers talking about what that should and shouldn't be. So the time is still kind of to be determined. If we go with some kind of modified schedule, meaning maybe you have, and this is just off the top of my head, that's not to say that's how it lands, but if you had 3 7-period days of maybe 45-minute class periods, and then you had maybe a 60-minute block for flex time, so that could happen like 3 days a week. If you built it into the block, you would have maybe 3 classes and flex one day, and then your 4 classes the other. So it could look a little different. Sure. The research that we did, obviously just academic research, and then speaking with folks that use this model, there's a lot of they found a lot of worth in having a regular meeting time of that flex time. And so we're trying to balance that with not overloading it where it becomes frivolous time for kids either. We know that we'll have kids that won't access it as well as other kids. And that's where that professional development has to happen for teachers, is that how do we support kids that maybe aren't going to reach out and access all the things that we have to offer? Well, then we need to have a plan to support those kids as well. So the amount of time has certainly been one of the key things that we've discussed.
Lisa, you've had students on your committee.
We
and
did.
So how will you gain more feedback from the other students.
So that is on our agenda of things to do this fall. So we surveyed our teachers, counselors, parents last spring, and then this fall, when we have a little bit more foundation of what the time might look like, what flex time is really going to be about, we're then going to put that out to students as well. The students on our committee have been just fantastic, as you can imagine. We have so many great kids, but just some really thoughtful input. And we've had kids that tell us that, well, I might not use that flex time. I might want to take another course. And so we kind of have to change the culture a little bit, too, that show them the value of, maybe your flex time is you sit and read a book for your enjoyment, or you go visit with your counselor, or maybe you just, are having some downtime for yourself because you're taking 4 AP classes, So it's really helping kids understand the purpose as well.
Next time seems like it's not new. I mean, in my years of experience, I went through 3 different schools that did it. Some of it was called advisory, some of it was called a short thing where a teacher would find a subject, something they're interested in, they would teach the kids, even crocheting or something like that, all kinds of things. And each one of those went by the wayside, and I'm not sure why. I don't know if it was the organization of it. I think it probably was. It's tough sometimes to get teachers to buy into this, because did I hear you say flex time maybe 3 times a week?
Be.
Well, that's 60 minutes. That's 180 minutes a week that they're not learning in the curriculum areas. I don't know. That's just one thing to think about. The bigger thing I think to think about is if you're talking about starting this next year, that doesn't give you a lot of time to get the teachers ready and are the kids accustomed to it. But I'm sure you guys have considered all that. Just keep that stuff in mind, because that's quite a culture change, not only for the kids, but for the teachers and for the administrators.
Right, which is why we're happy that we have those early release days to do that. So those days are going to be totally focused on preparing for this schedule. So we will be doing some structured things, and we're going to be doing it through the content area so that a group of math teachers can really talk about what does this look like for us in our content area. The other thing we've talked about, the flex time, that absolutely has been a conversation again and again that we're continually engaging teachers around, because teachers are very protective of that content time, right? That, I have a lot to teach, which comes back to the paring down of the curriculum and really defining those essential skills that kids need. That doesn't mean that we stop teaching things, but are there better ways that we can combine curriculum too, so that kids have experience with things in different areas? And then flex time in and of itself is not curriculum free. It's just a chance for kids maybe to interact with the curriculum differently. So we're looking at those things as well.
I'm not thinking of flex time being, well, I'm not interested in any of this, I'm going home. That's not part of it.
That's not an option.
Okay.
It can't be right study hall or
Right.
downtime.
Right.
There has to be meaningful and purposefulness to it, whatever it is.
So we, last spring, and again, in the sake of time, I didn't have time to include it here, but members of our committee put a video together for teachers about flex time, and it answered almost all those questions, because those are the questions teachers are asking. And so you're exactly right. It really has to be very well defined, the things that it will be and the things that it won't be, so that it doesn't just become an opportunity for a student to check out. And in fact, what we really want it to be is a chance for a student to really thrive inside of school and to really find where they connect. And again, ideally, we would love to see every student do a version of Project Interface. Well, Flex Time would be a fantastic time to do that. Whether it's a capstone project, a different version or a smaller version of that. But if we had time in our schedule, 180 minutes, that's a lot of time that a student really could be interacting with a business partner and learning the things that these kids here today learned. But a lot of our kids don't have access to that right now. But we have to properly define that.
I think what I'm hearing, and I will be included in that, is sometimes I have seen advisory, flex, whatever it is, not be the most purposeful. Concept is great. So what I was thinking in my head was, how do we make the flex time very rigorous in the learning? Doesn't have to, and how to ensure that happens. And I think that will be important for our community as well.
Absolutely.
I think Lisa and I have talked a lot about this as she briefs me on the committee and such, and I've lived through in 2 different school districts, the concept of flex, or as we call it, Keith, you may have been looking for this term, but academic networking, putting emphasis on academic, but there were some phases getting through that where truly it was flex time, and we have to keep in mind, we have to kind of find a balance, but part of the whole invention of the idea of flex time in high school is because we're preparing for kids for college, and there is independence in college, and there is the need for decision making of what are you going to do right now and what are you going to do between, you're not in school in college. We all know that. I'm preaching to the choir. But I will tell you that in my years in the Melville School District, which were many, I saw it evolve, and correct in that it was not a real popular thing with our teaching staff at first. However, if you were to visit the Melville School District today, they just their current superintendent a couple of years back talked about doing away with it, and they had a mutiny on their hands. I mean, the teachers wanted nothing to do with getting away from it. The parents wanted nothing to do with getting away from it, and the students wanted nothing to get away from it. So that's just what I've encouraged Lisa's leadership with the group is to try to iron all that out ahead of implementing it, as opposed to implementing it and then figuring out how that's going to manage. Because we have the luxury of the fact that at one point in time, Rockwood was one of, I think, only 11, it may have been a total of 11 high schools, and our high schools were 4 of them, but in the state that wasn't doing a traditional block schedule. And traditional block schedules, when they came, of course the East Coast and the West Coast were doing them for a long time, and they hit the Midwest, a big part of them were regular networking or flex periods. So we've got the luxury of looking at what those others have done and making sure that we think through that differently.
It's not the conceptual piece, it's the implementation piece, it's the fidelity piece, it's making sure that staff, is same thing with block schedule. 90 minutes is a long time to teach. Master teachers utilize every minute of that. Sometimes that always, varies. So it's really important. Since you're having this going on and you're taking the time to study this, make sure you build in all the safeguards.
The other thing that we've talked about with those 4 early dismissal days with our high school staff, we're just really excited about that very valuable time because we will have all of our high school teachers together. Granted, it may be in curriculum departments, but again, this group that I have overseeing this, and probably 80% of this is from things they've put together, they're ready to put videos out. We have some in September. We have some Skype visits planned. We've got this cohort of teachers in Florida who have been doing this for a few years, and exactly what Dr. Knost is saying. Like, they have said there are so many things you could take out of our schedule. Do not take this away. And they have just this list of things that they do, like I said, that is very similar to our vision and mission. So all of our high school teachers are going to get to hear from them and hear those kinds of things and dialogue with them and ask those kinds of questions. So we're excited that we're going to have that opportunity that all staff can hear the same message and also ask those questions on what would implementation look like.
Now we're going to turn to policy updates. And I need a motion to approve revisions to policy 1220, school calendar and school day, policy 2235, admission to resident students, policy 2400, student educational records, policy 4410, professional staff development opportunities, and policy 6115, state mandated curriculum.
So moved. Second.
So really, you probably recall there's a very large omnibus bill that went through the state legislature. at the end of the end of the session, and a lot of things were put together and included pieces from different Senate bills and House bills and such. What these are, after legal has done a review for us, and there are many more than this that we need to do more work with various people that are over certain departments. These tonight are really more about changing how things are worded in the policy, just to make it align with policy, align with statute. Really doesn't change anything that we're doing, so there's no need to do a PIN process for review. We know the outcome. We need to make sure that our language matches what the statutes say. So that's really what we're asking tonight, to forego the PIN process on these because of legal recommendations. And again, there are a lot more, but just to be clear, because as Lynn reads those, it sounds like maybe we're asking the board to make sweeping changes in policies without really reviewing. We're not. It's really not changing what we do. It's just the wording in the policies to make sure it matches what's in the statute.
I read through all the changes. They don't change much of anything. They're moving paragraphs around and rewording things. It's almost no different.
On favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Okay, it is now time to look at bond issue purchases and related contracts, $7,500 to $150,000. Chris Friend, you're
moved.
back.
You need a motion?
Moved.
Oh, so
Okay.
Evening. You'll notice a theme tonight that all of the bond issue related items that we have on the agenda are related to the Eureka High School STEM Lab edition. So we're getting ready to launch work on that project. So as a result, we have 3 items on the agenda for tonight for approval. The first one is for the Land Learning Foundation. This is a purchase of 2,575 stream mitigation credits as outlined by the Department of Natural Resources and the Corps of Engineers. To explain a little further what this is, anytime a project impacts an active waterway, there's a rigorous process that you go through with the Corps and Natural Resources to get a permit to impact that waterway. As part of that process, at the end, once you receive your permit, you are required to purchase mitigation credits. And that is through a foundation, Land Learning Foundation in the state of Missouri. That foundation supports agricultural educational opportunities for youths. So basically the money that we put in for our mitigation credits goes to that foundation to further educate people on the impact of nature.
I was always curious, where does that water come from and where does it go?
That water actually comes off of Clifty Creek, which Clifty Creek, Flat Creek, there's a difference of opinion of what the actual name of that creek is, but it actually connects to the Merrimack,
That's the creek?
directly in front of the building.
Well, I know that.
Mhm.
I know that, but where does it come from and where's it go?
The
Runoff
creek,
that goes
the
down the
creek goes from, actually, it comes from Emerald Forest, runs down into
Okay,
Flat
that's
Creek,
okay.
and exits into the Merrimack
Gotcha,
River.
okay, that's,
Sorry.
and does it go all the way to the Merrimack?
Yes, it does.
Oh, darn.
Yes, so when we have flood issues, that watershed goes into the Merrimack, and we actually get back up from the
Is that all,
Merrimack.
is that all buried? Or is that just goes to a certain point and it just goes out into the fields, is that right?
Correct. There's a large creek on the south edge of our property line that runs under 109 and exits into the Merrimack River.
I know that. Is that where, that's where it goes?
Correct.
But does it go above ground after it gets past the parking lot?
Part of it was already covered.
That's what I
and
meant, okay.
the north side of the parking lot, there's underground creek, and now the whole thing will be underground until it dumps.
The south side, though, is anything underground there?
No.
So really 2/3 of it, because that creek has always been on that campus, it's been in thirds. There was the north third, which we enclosed on a previous project, the center third, which we'll enclose now, and then the southernmost third will still be exposed into the creek.
Okay, that's what I meant. The
Yes.
southern, so there's, okay, that's good, thank you.
Seems silly to call that a natural creek in its configuration the way it is right now, but you really don't have any choice, so you have to purchase the credits. So.
correct?
Just what you
Did
gotta do.
I did challenge Chris a little on this, and he's such a good soldier. I asked him to ask the question, what if we participated in protest, because I just think it's a case where they see that we want to fill this creek in, and they're like, hey, make them buy some credits. And but it is what it is, and whether we like that or not, that's what we need to do to get the approval.
It's the one that when it's done, we get repaid for?
Oh, we will not receive this money back. That's the escrow account that I'll cover here in a little bit.
Okay, good.
Other discussion? Is it time for a vote? I mean, it's time for all who are in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Any
Was that is that bond issue money?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
opposed? Carries. Bond issue purchases were motion approve the bond issue purchases and related contracts over $150,000 for the City of Eureka for payment in accordance to escrow agreement on the Eureka High School Phase 1 site improvement. The escrow is released back to the district upon substantial work being completed on the project.
So move.
Then we'll have a second motion.
Explain this one.
Okay, so Dr. Kender,
Explain
this
that
is
one.
what you're referring to. So the City of Eureka, if you have a heavy site work package, which we had with the new elementary school, and obviously this one is also another large site work impactful package, they require you to establish an escrow with the city. Basically what it does, it's an insurance policy on their end that we complete the work that we say we're going to do. And if we do not, it's an available funding mechanism for them to come in and complete the repairs themselves. So that's basically, we're establishing an account to assure the City of Eureka that we are going to do what we said we were going to do. And we do have this money released back to us. We actually keep up with them as we progress through the project and request the funding to be released as we move along the project schedule.
What is phase 1?
So phase 1 is the site work package basically focused on the front of the building. So we know that we're going to build the addition around the flagpole area, is what I call it, on the front of the building. So there are a lot of utilities, parking issues that we need to resolve before we can even get into that footprint. So the first package is basically addressing really primarily the creek, getting the creek enclosed, moving some parking area out that direction, and dealing with some utilities.
That mean eventually that one main entrance there is not going to be there anymore?
It is temporarily closed right now because the first stage that we have to do is remove the bridge on the South Drive and enclose that portion of the creek and move our way to the north. But it will be reopened and it will be permanently open. There'll be two entrances and exits at the completion of the project.
Good. Thank you.
Other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Now we have a motion to approve the bond issue purchases and related contracts over $150,000 for Kolb grading for Phase 1 site work for the new Eureka High School STEM Lab Addition project.
It's in addition to
Is
the
there-
rest?
Is there
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
a second?
That is correct. So the Kolb grading agenda item is for the actual general contract to perform the work. They are a site grading, site excavating company, very well known in the area. We're excited to have them on board actually, but this is the general contract to perform this work.
Spending $2.5 million before we build anything.
The other's an escrow. We're not really spending it. They're just holding our money to make sure we complete a project and we don't leave something unsightly.
We
Pretty
hold the
paying
escrow
for it
back.
already, that
They don't
1.1
hold any
million?
portion of it.
What's that?
Correct.
They're not paying that 1.1 million. We're paying it, aren't we?
It's a
We're
little
paying
surpri-
it, but it's just a holding. It's just,
Like
they're just
escrow.
holding our money.
It's a little
It comes
surprising
back
it
to-
applies to schools, but that keeps somebody from coming in, tearing up a bunch of ground, getting a contract in place, and then leaving an eyesore. school districts wouldn't do that, but the law is not specific, so you still have to put that escrow up. But that's not money you lose. It's money just to make sure you actually do the work. So you'll get that whole 1.1 back. This is the money to actually pay somebody to do the work.
That's correct.
Oh, okay. So we're spending 1.5 million before we
To get the
said any.
phase 1 work done, yeah.
Okay.
You won't pay for it till they do it.
I understand. Yeah. That's all bond issue.
That's correct.
Okay. What's the rest of it going to cost? Do you have those prices yet?
We're estimating the rest of the package, the actual building addition, and it does have some site work associated with it, is about $29.5 million.
Kind of in line with what you were thinking before, or?
Yes, it is.
It is, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Exciting
Thanks,
stuff,
thanks,
Chris.
Chris.
Let's
Thank
get
you,
that going.
Chris.
Get your
Have
leadership
it done
raise.
next week, will you?
Okay. We are now at 8.07, proposed agenda for the September 6th board meeting. My goodness.
Be present.
Professional learning development.
Renee and Donette. Renee Trotier and Donette
Okay.
Whisker will be here.
I know we have it on the calendar, but what's the date of the rate hearing?
September 27th.
Following meeting.
Okay,
It's actually 3 weeks between the
we're
first
always
and
kind
the
of
last.
squeezed in there because you got to do it after the assessments are set, but before October 1st, so we're.
Yeah, we
okay.
moved the meeting on the 20th and combined it for the 27th.
Thank you.
So there's 3 weeks between this meeting and the tax rate hearing. Not this meeting tonight, that meeting
Right.
and the tax rate hearing at the end of the month. Mm-hmm.
Any other comments about the next board meeting? Okay. So now it's time to look at future agenda items. To future agenda presentations and events to attend. Excuse me, I misspoke. Okay, we have. Thank you, sir. We have a list, guys. Lots of things are happening. It's one thing that's caught my eye is the President's Forum that's coming up on the 29th, on a Wednesday. There is, I know, the it says something about
Yes, and some people have responded already. And then also the Eureka Days, you have something in front of you that has information about that on Saturday the 8th, if anybody wants to attend that.
We usually have a couple people, and I actually have been invited to be the Grand Marshal this year. So I won't be with our Rockwood group. I get to be in the front of the parade. I don't know what they're going to put me in. I was hoping it was like a Pope mobile or something, but
It would be very sad to have a school bus with nobody on it. So
that's right.
Let's
They
try.
offered a crossfire, convertible crossfire, so just keep that in mind.
I don't know who put this list together, but this is very helpful to the
It
board.
is.
So
Really
if
It is.
But
kind
A
of
lot of
updates to
time
that, make it
it
very
helps
easy
us.
to kind of see at a glance what's going on. So thank you to whoever that.
everything Janet does is helpful.
that's just a
Concur.
Google off the calendar.
So-
So it's
Easy for you to say.
And I appreciate her organization from this task I had to do tonight, so thanks again.
no problem.
All right, I think we are at the point of adjournment, are we, right? Anybody comments, anything, for the good of the cause? Done.
Say, congratulations, Lynn.
Good job, Lynn.
Good job,
job.
Lynn. Laura Lee, we don't even need your back.
No, yes, we did. Get back, Laura Lee.